We are live.
Hey, welcome back to Penergic Life. This is the Skiff. I am Matt. I'm joined by Chris. Chris and I both were served together in 5th Special Forces Group. We're on the same team. We're here discussing day-to-day events and specific gun stuff and survival and preparedness stuff. If you have any questions, please ask. We don't care if the questions are ridiculous. Ask questions if you're interested, and let's get going on the show.
All right.
Chris, how do you want to start tonight off?
Well, I just kind of figured I'd talk about my pistol, my really cool pistol. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
Holy
baby.
smokes.
What?
Let's discuss that. First of all, what is it?
Well, inside here, you'll kind of notice that it kind of takes the shape of a SIG P320, which you would be absolutely correct, but there has been a lot of custom work here done. So, yeah. And it's actually super cool.
What is that, a compact?
This is a carry.
Sweet.
Yeah. So what you're looking at here is a P320 carry, and a TLR1 HL 800 lumens. We're looking at a Trigicon RMR, the dual illuminated, no battery. It's got the tritium and the fiber optics.
What reticle's in that thing?
It's the 12.9 MOA green triangle.
That is sweet.
And you also looking at the suppressor height sights.
Whose are those? Are those Mepra lights, or what do you got on there?
These are the SIG H3s.
Sweet.
So, yeah. Also,
those are the ones coming out on the new TAC Ops they're coming out with this summer.
Oh, that's cool. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Clear that. Drop the mag. Clear. All right. So, but one of the really cool things about this is the backstory. And I'm going to wait and keep one more secret to the end. And some of you might know it, but you guys out there, notice that this is not the stock grip on this thing. Okay? So if you know what grip this is, go ahead and post it. I'm going to keep that in to the end until we talk about the backstory. So
did you do that stippling yourself?
No. So at the beginning here, to be about right after Christmas, somewhere around in January there, you and I were talking about the X series, the X carry, and I just happened to pick one up at a gun store, and I was like, man, that is cool.
Did you pick an X carry up, or did you pick something else up?
I believe it's the X carry, wasn't it?
No, you wanted the X carry. They quit making it.
No. The one that you and I looked at.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up the X carry. Was kind of feeling the weight and stuff. I really liked it. So I was like, yeah, man, I want one of these. So, you of course already had your X5 and everything, and were pretty happy with it. So the other subject was the barrel length and the full size versus the carry versus the compact, and that's another conversation for another time. Maybe some funny stuff will come out of that, but that's kind of where it all started. So we got a Wade says, why did you pick green dot versus red? Well, so when I started looking for the Trigicon stuff that I wanted. The green dot really didn't pick up my eye, and I have some green dot, red dot stuff already, but I wanted to really, the real thing was I wanted to try something different. And Matt and I got talking about the triangle, and he seemed to like it. So with one thing there, when I went on to actually purchase the RMR, the green triangle was the only one they had, and I decided, hey, I got green stuff already. I like it. It's bright. You know, let's pull the trigger on it. Plus, it was a good price. So far, I don't see any real issues with it, but hope that answered your question, Wade.
Well, the triangle's interesting, the delta. And I think we've talked about this before because Leupold started the delta point, although I think the RMR had that triangle first. But the triangle's, I think, really, really cool that you can be precise with the tip, just the tip. And you also have the big reference in the window that's easy to pick up. So if you want to be precise, cool. You've got the tip of the triangle, and if you want to be quick, you've got the rest of that optic to use for fast target acquisition. And Leupold did away with the delta point. You can only get the 2.5 MOA dot now. That's a 12.9 MOA triangle that's in that. I can't wait to shoot that thing.
Yeah, I literally just got this put together, man, and I haven't even shot it yet. So yeah, I'm interested in getting out and shooting it, and really interested in see how the recoil management is.
So Chris, tell me. So you just bought the? Did you buy the X carry? What did you end up doing?
Well, from the beginning, you kind of helped me through this whole process, and I know you have a lot of experience with that stuff, and with where you were working and things like that, and you had a lot of like inside information, and seeing people come in and out and what they're carrying and how things were going. So I went ahead and purchased the P320 carry, just standard model, right out of the gate.
Because you couldn't get the X carry anymore. And
Couldn't.
for some reason, SIG discontinued the X carry, although they're coming out with the X carry TAC ops.
Yep.
They discontinued the X carry for what reason, I'm not quite sure, because it seemed to be a very, very popular gun. And so you went on the custom route.
Yeah. And the other thing was that we found interesting too is when we started looking for the triangle, a few years ago, we talked about that Delta Point Pro, and you know, I was getting ready to pull the trigger on that and get the Delta Point Pro. But again, what happened? We go on the website, Leupold's website. Guess what? Oh, we don't make it anymore. Oh, okay. The two things that are basically tier one level items. Yeah, we're not going to make those anymore. What's wrong with you guys? Come on.
I have no idea. So you went down the custom route with this gun. So that slide is for sure not stock. So why don't you tell people what you had to do to get the gun you wanted?
Sure. So Matt's absolutely right, because we pretty much put this thing together, the two of us. So P320 out of the box. I went ahead and got the RMR and the sights, and I sent it off to get machined. And so this company, which was recommended, is JagerWorks. So I got a really cool pen out of the deal. So if you guys want to see that, that's what we're talking about right now. JagerWorks, mark that down. These guys did an awesome job, and they turned it around fairly fast. It was amazing. Good job, fellas. So the deal is here is, so you send them all your stuff, your sights and your Trigicon. They completely machine the slide, and they mount everything for you. But one of the cool features, and I was looking at their website, the JagerWorks website, And they'll also do cool machining to the top of the slide. So basically, you can see the ridges right here on the top of the slide.
Yeah, those are sweet.
Um, it really kind of matches the side right there. So you can
And
see, yeah, right
those
here.
things give you lots of purchase when you rack the slide with the optic on it, because I use
Yep.
the front of my hand, and I
Yeah.
use the that section right there.
Yep.
And
And one of the other things is you could get a hole machined in the top of the slide, but I really wasn't too cool with that. But this actually came out better, and I think it's going to add some weight to the front to kind of help with recoil management. So I really like how it ended up, and I think it's kind of cool. But once you send them all that stuff, they usually, depending on the Cerakote, and this is also Cerakoted, you can tell the difference in the colors there. The Cerakote is sniper gray, and the grip is black. So it's basically a two-tone, which is, man, this thing is just super cool. I keep saying that it is super cool.
well,
So
there's another thing about JagerWorks that they do, and I know when we were looking at this stuff, uh, a lot of the people that machine slides for red dots, they machine them. They drill the holes. They tap the holes. Some of them use inserts. One cool thing that JagerWorks does is that there's two lugs they put on the front where the red dot rides on. And so you just don't have two holes in there, and everything is held in place by those two screws. This has two lugs that help hold that optic in place and keep it from going out of zero. So there's just little things like that that Jaeger does that seem really, really, really cool. And I can't wait to. Chris and I are going to be out of school here coming up in beginning of June out in Pittsburgh, and I can't wait to shoot this thing.
yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, to finish up on the slide real quick. So you send them all your stuff, they machine it and they coat it. And one of the coolest things about that is they go ahead and they laser bore sight everything for you too. So again, I haven't tried that out yet. I will probably get at it this week. Weather's starting to turn somewhat decent, and I'll probably get out to the range and get some rounds out of this bad boy and kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Has anybody got any guesses on this grip right here? So if I get too close, you guys will see the name on it, but look how cool that is. It's got the X.
Was picking up the name.
No, see how it kind of has the
It's got a nice undercut right there. It's I got a flared magwell. I saw you showing the magwell before.
Yeah.
The magwell flare is pretty sweet on that gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to get in the light. So, but yeah, it's really easy to get a magazine in there, man. It's once you got your muscle memory down, I mean, you're just it just funnels it right in. So
has anybody made any guesses as to what griddle that is?
Wade says Spyderco.
I think we're going to let the cat out of the bag. It's a Wilson Combat, and you have the tungsten weights in the back too, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that X carry we talked about, that X carry frame, it was kind of cool. I've never had a Wilson Combat product before, so I went ahead and purchased that and gave it a try. And the stippling on it's amazing. I think they just hands down to those guys. Also, they did an excellent job with it. I recommend getting one.
And it's fairly cheap too. I mean, the that's the cool thing about the 320. It's like the AR of pistols because you can mix and match. But if you didn't like it, you weren't going to be too ass hurt because it was like $60, $65, somewhere around there for the grip module.
Yeah, 65. Yeah.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Hey, maybe you can take this one, Matt. Wade wants to know, does anyone run heavier guide rods in those?
Yeah, absolutely. You can get tungsten guide rods for the 320 line, and a lot of guys, what they're switching to, as evidenced on the new X5s, they're running the 1911 springs and guide rods on them, so you can tune the gun via the springs. So the tungsten the tungsten guide rod is really really cool because it's not reciprocating mass. The only problem is it's pretty expensive. I think Springer Precision make it, and I think somebody else is working on it, or if they don't have it out, I'm not sure. But I know for sure Springer Precision makes tungsten guide rods. Several people make stainless steel guide rods for them now.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on this Spyderco thing. He's talking about Spyderco.
It kind of looks like the G10 Spyderco, the grips.
Yeah, that's a good one, Wade. Matt had some Spyderco issues earlier last week. So
almost, I thought I lost one that I've had for years and years and years. Have been everywhere with me, and I was in deep depression. It's funny, you get attached to some items, but this thing had been around the world with me, and I know Chris went through something similar when he lost a knife that had been everywhere with him on a jump. So anyways, I got lucky. I found it. It was underneath the seat of my car. I don't know how I got there, but I found it. So I was always right with the world.
Yeah, I was really lucky, man, with that knife. I did lose it on a jump, and I don't know where it went, but very fortunate, when you're very nice to people and you help people out. Some lady gave me the exact same knife about 6 months later. So that was pretty amazing. And it was not my ex-wife. So man, this guy Wade, man. Hey man, I like this guy. He says tall sights but no threaded barrel yet. All right. Yeah. Hey man.
That's on its way. That's on its way.
Yeah, speaking of a couple of things, you're right, man. You're definitely right. You're definitely right. That's coming. And one of the last things is going to be probably a flat trigger. So, yep, that's in the making too. And we'll see how that works out. So, yep, definitely, Wade. I like the way you think, man. Good deal.
Yeah, that will, and pretty much that's what that TAC Ops is going to be. It's an X carry with the tall sights cut for an optic with a threaded barrel on it, and it's got the mag weld, the steel mag weld on the bottom that bolts to that. You can bolt it to that gun too, by the way. The standard X5 mag weld will bolt to the Wilson Combat fire control group.
Yep.
But any more questions about that gun? That's a sweet new gat, dude.
Yeah.
So
one last comment on that, Matt. So everything about this thing is absolute perfection. So all the components, all that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but good choices, good equipment. And if you guys have any questions about any of the equipment or whatever Matt and I talk about in here, please give us a ring, shoot us an email, something, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions. But yeah, this is all top of the level stuff. So operator GAC.
Operator alert.
Oh, where? I got it.
I'm looking for a beard, but I can't find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, beard, must have beard, I
Yes.
guess. Yeah.
One of the things we're going to start doing here is we're going to, I don't know if you guys are interested or want to hear some stories. Chris and I were discussing before we went on tonight a story uh, that happened that we were laughing. And we're like, you know what? Maybe we'll start sharing a few stories of when we were overseas, some of the goofy stuff that happened. Obviously, there's the team dynamic. There's if you were a fly on the wall and you were in a team room, and I'm sure it's like this, whether it's SF dudes, whether they're SEALs or MARSOC Marines or even PJs, I'm sure it's the same dynamic that you see. But you hear a bunch of dudes that if you just heard it sound like they're being horrible to one another, and it's just part of life. You rip on each other, and it's more of an endearment type thing than anything else. But it sounds like it's brutal, and it really isn't. It's part of the whole bonding process. I believe it's part of the fun of being on a team, because there's always something going on, and there's usually somebody pushing more than just about everybody else, but everybody gives everybody else shit. Some people are the bigger target, and but sometimes you have little conflicts. Like the dudes like each other, but they have conflicts with each other. And a bunch of the guys in the team, we gave nicknames to. So we had an individual on our team that we called Sid. I'm not going to use his real name, but we called him Sid. And the reason why we called him Sid is he struck a vague resemblance to. I've never even seen the movie, but I've seen the pictures of this thing. This on Ice Age named Sid. So he got the nickname of Sid. And then we had Uncle Fingers. Okay. And it's just awesome. Uncle Fingers. See, it's kind of funny because before Uncle Fingers got to the team, we had another teammate that was always teasing Sid and saying, "There's an Uncle Fingers in your background." Okay. So we had an issue with a medic on our team, and he didn't fit in, so he left. He not voluntarily. We showed him the door, and that's another dynamic of a team. You can't have somebody that just doesn't fit or doesn't want to be there. The team gets rid of them. Doesn't matter who they are, what they're gone.
You can tell right away, like when a guy comes in the team room, and there's 3 or 4 guys in there, and we're just ripping on one another. I mean, first of all, you got to come in the door with an open mind. Second, you got to come in the door with a thick skin. And third, you got to figure out in the first 30 seconds that nothing is sacred.
No.
Nothing.
No. Yeah.
So, come there. I don't even know Uncle Fingers, man. Uncle Fingers. Dude.
So we had a medic that left our team, okay, and we were going to get our partner here at Penergic, Robert, was coming to our team. We had all this was all arranged, and he was on his way, and for some reason we were at a school. We were at an event. We were somewhere in Nevada, but anyways. In comes an individual and says, "Hey, I'm going to be on your team." And we're like, "No, you're not. Get the fuck out." So that's pretty much how it went. So he left and he came back and he said, "No, Sergeant Major says I'm going to be on your team." We're like, "We don't give a fuck what anybody says. You're not on our team. We got someone who's coming, dude. The fuck out." Right? So he's just tucked his tail between his legs and he bailed, right? Unbeknownst to us, the sergeant major had, and we're talking the battalion sergeant major, changed his mind on us, and Robert wasn't coming to our team, and so we ended up. we ended up getting this individual who said he was coming to our team, and walked through the door, and we're like, that's Uncle Fingers. That is Uncle Fingers right there. Super smart dude. A little bit odd, as we all are a little bit, but we're like, that's Uncle Fingers. It was kind of like natural. So he became affectionately known as Uncle Fingers or Fingers. anytime we would go somewhere, I remember we'd be at like the car rental place, and they'd be like, Uncle Fingers, why do they call? And we'd be like, well, how many schools are in the 10-mile vicinity? Because he would go nuts. He would go nuts over what we were doing because we were just busting his balls. But anyways, Uncle Fingers and Sid were constantly going at it. Constantly going at, just banter back and forth. And when we would do missions overseas, so the fast forward, we're overseas, and you'd do missions, and you'd rotate. So a few of the guys would sit back at the ops end monitoring the mission, right? And the rest of the team would be out running the mission. So you'd see what was going on, and you'd be in constant communications on what was going on. And one night I happened to be, my number was, I was staying back, and I had to stay back with Uncle Fingers and Sid, right? And immediately they're going back and forth, just going back and forth, okay? So Sid would always say, Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up. He would always say that. And then Uncle Fingers would always be making fun of Sid, saying he would be singing the Pampers song or something. You know, I'm a big kid, look what I can do. I can wear those big pants too. It's a big boy now. Wow. You know, it's just the whole night. And I'm ready to pretty much suck start a 45 at this stage. You know what I mean? Because it just didn't stop. So this led to Sid getting on one of the computers with the printers, and he just printed out, after this night, he printed out Uncle Fingers on an 8.5 by 11. Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up. And he must have printed 500 of these things. Okay. So he put them everywhere. Remember this, Chris? He put them everywhere. I mean, you walked out to where the bathroom was. They were on every stall. You open up the door. There it is. Above the sink. You open up the refrigerator. You go to every one of the chews, which is where it's your individual living quarters. You'd go into the team room, the ops end, you name it.
In the hallway, the arms room. I mean, it's just
everywhere.
You sat down to go to the bathroom and close the door. Guess what? Fingers.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Fingers, shut the fuck up. Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up. Right? Everywhere. Okay. Now, we were at this particular deployment, we were the busiest team in country at that time. We were busy. I mean, busy. Okay. And we got a lot of attention because we were busy. So when I mean attention, you know, senior command, all the way up to 2-star general was there all the time. So one day the group commander shows up with the group sergeant major, and how'd you feel about
you know, I didn't even know what to do at that point, really, but sit there, and my brain was just laughing, like uncontrollably laughing in my head. And I felt like at one point, I think I almost passed out because I was trying to keep a straight face, And
Well,
so,
we're jumping ahead a little bit. We're jumping ahead a little bit. Okay. I'm not going to name names of who these individuals were, but they weren't the most well liked, especially the sergeant major. Okay,
yeah.
so they sit down in our op cen, and we're supposed to be briefing what we're doing, as a whole, and what's going on in the province, and what we're doing here, and what we're doing there, and what our plans are, all of that important stuff. Okay, but you can see that this sergeant major was just he couldn't talk about anything, right? He couldn't talk about anything. And the group commander, I don't think, gave a shit. Well, he didn't give a shit. And because this was all up, everything was up. And so they all come in and they sit down in our op cen. And the sergeant major sits down there, and he's fidgeting, and then finally, we're trying to brief important things, okay? But that wasn't important to him. What was important were all of the 8.5 by 11s that said, Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up, right? He couldn't let it go. He was drawn to it, okay? And he finally just had a fit. So the whole team is in there, and they're sitting down at a table in the center of the op cen, and we're like surrounding the table. We're all standing, right? And he brings it up. He's like, Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up. Uncle Fingers, shut the fuck up. And just getting so upset. So everybody's trying to look serious, but we're all dying. We are just dying inside. He's pointing all sorts of shit. That G-wash stuff and all shit written on our board. I mean, just so he's just beside himself. So we're all standing around, and we got to the G-wash thing. That's a whole long other story I'm not going to get into, but George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, it was a little skit. And he read it, and we just all just started laughing. We're trying to look serious. He's pissed. I mean, just pissed. The whole team's laughing. Then he screams for the captain and the team sergeant, which is Chris, get up in the fucking hallway, right? So he gets up, leaves us in there with the group commander. Our captain and Chris are out in the hallway. Well, how did that conversation go, Chris?
Oh man. So there's from to this point, we were kind of laxed on our uniform and stuff, which we were supposed to be, but he basically told me, he goes, if I didn't need you guys, if you guys weren't doing such a good job here and your op tempo wasn't to it, I would fire you. And that's no shit or something. I was just like, I was holding back laughing. Like, we had some real world stuff going on here, man, like some serious stuff. And all he wanted to talk about was the signs and our uniform and our haircuts or something. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Overseas. This guy was going after teams because everybody had combat photographers with them. And if they were wearing caps like this, which is what SF guys do, right? Facial hair and all that, you're supposed to have modified grooming standards, right? This guy was going to make SF like the regular army if it killed him. And this is what he was tearing the heart and soul out of SF. I mean, he was just a complete fucking piece of work. But he couldn't concentrate on anything. None of that shit, none of what was really going on and what was happening, okay, was important to him. Okay, none of that was. What was important were the signs up on the wall and ball caps. That's what was important to this guy. So, it's funny how these people rise to those ranks, and their priorities are all backwards. And
Here,
yeah,
here's
I was
the
blown away. I was
yeah,
blown away.
I was too. And here's another interesting caveat to that. So after all that had went down, um, yeah, so me and the captain got some counseling statements out of it. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, and then whatever. But the other sergeant major decided he wanted to have lunch with me and tell me that, hey, if I wanted to get promoted, that I was going to have to straighten up and rub some shoulders with these guys. And I was like, I said, excuse me? Oh, so you don't promote people based on their achievements or their good leadership or what they've done or how they, act? You want to base your promotions on people who rub shoulders?
Yeah.
I said, no, thank you.
Well,
At
basically,
that point, I said, no, thank you. That's not what,
throw their dudes under the bus, because we had a really good
yeah,
sergeant major who was concerned about his dudes first, and this guy was an ass kicker, just a great guy. Well, anytime something stupid would come up to colonel level, he would tell them that was fucking stupid. My guys aren't doing it, right? And that's the kind of guy you want, looking out for his dudes. That's his number one priority. And people forget that shit, because now
yeah,
people start worrying about getting promoted and everything else. And what did they do? They got rid of him. They forced him into retirement. And then we got a real piece of work. We got a real piece of work after that.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
kind of, the good leaders get pushed out, because it's kind of like a fraternity once you get to that level. On the officer side and on the sergeant major side, there are very, very few good sergeant majors and very, very few good officers. They're far and few between. Not saying there aren't any, but they're far and few between because of the game they have to play. And now SF used to be a dead end for an officer. Now SF is a stepping stone to get your stars. So that is completely wrong. And now that we're on this subject, we ought to talk about some of the issues that you and I, Chris, have talked about a bunch of times inside. And we're coming from the SF point of view, because that's all we know. But I know it's the same. It is the same, whether it's SEALs, MARSOC, PJ. It is the same. Okay, but what we have an issue with is an officer comes to the team. Okay, so an officer comes to the team, and you can't even go to the Q course unless you're captain promotable. Okay, so these guys have usually spent 5, 6, 7, sometimes more than that years in the regular Army, which is 180 degrees different to what SF is. SF is unconventional, thinking outside the box, right? So what a captain has been taught in the regular Army, when he gets to a team, he sometimes comes to the team on lesser side of experience, quite often, okay? And gets to a team and thinks that these SF dudes who are experienced are his Joes, right? They kind of think that. So that's where they cause a lot of problems, okay? Now, most of those are dealt with. Team sergeants deal with them. The experienced guys that are on the team guide him, and a good officer realizes, okay, that's my issue, because an officer's job on the team is supposed to he's supposed to represent the team to hire. Apparently only an officer can represent the team to hire, and that's what his job is. The day-to-day operations and what happens on the team, and that's the team sergeant's job. If you have a warrant, we didn't have a warrant on our team. But if you have a warrant, that's the warrant, and the team sergeant primarily do that. There are good officers out there. They understand what their role is, and they also understand that, hey, they're not the most experienced guy in the team. Now, an officer comes to the team, and he can only spend 18 months to 2 years on an ODA, right? And then he's taken from the team and he goes to a staff position. So they come, as far as special operations is concerned, the most least experienced guy on the team. They can only stay there for 2 years. They're taken from the team and put into a staff position, being groomed into a leadership position. So the guy's making the decisions that affect SF. And step in here, Chris, if I am off base on any of this. The guy's making the decisions that affect SF. And this is where you run into trouble with uniforms and bullshit that doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter in SF, right? These guys are the least experienced guys to be making those decisions, and they're making the decisions. The people, in my opinion, that should be officers on an ODA are team sergeants. But what they've done is they make you pretty much have to go through the whole Q course all over again to be an officer, which is stupid. It's absolutely stupid, okay? And who's going to do that? What experienced team sergeant who's an EA is going to go back and go through the Q course? But those are the guys that should be making the decisions, that because they're the most experienced guys on the team. They're the ones who should be making the decisions.
Here's and this, we have talked about this before. So here's the thing, like when SF originally started, it was really cool. I mean, it was really cool. It was cool when we were there, minus that other crap that we had to put up with from the conventionalized, aka, you know, I don't even know what thinking that is. But the bottom line here is that as time went on, the regular Army kind of looked at it started looking at the SF guys like, okay, these guys can help and we can learn a lot from these guys. But then here's where the problem started, and you're absolutely right. It started with these officers coming in and going through this and going, oh yeah, you know what? If I had some guys like that, you know, I can get them to do whatever. And we're a force multiplier. But at the same time, you can't put us in a box. That's not the type of dudes that run special ops. Okay? These guys are different from regular Army dudes. That's just the way it is. We went through all this training. We said we're going to volunteer to get beaten. We're going to volunteer to get bloody. We're going to volunteer to do this and volunteer to do that. You can't put us in a box. After all that, you're going to put us in a box and tell us what to wear and tell us how to groom ourselves? Come on, man. Come on. What's wrong with your head? You know, and then on top of that, you're going to send us out into the battlefield and say, yep, these are America's best. And you know who's winning the battles out there. We've been in them trenches more times than we can count. And we've always come out on top. And that's because that mentality is built, it's honored, and these guys that get up there and think that we can be conventionalized is wrong. 100% wrong. That's not the mentality that we bring to the battlefield.
And one of the things that's concerning us, okay, as ex-SF guys, okay, is they have recently, because there's been a directive, okay, they've lowered standards, okay, in order to try to get females into special operations. Now, if someone can pass everything, here's the deal. They lower the PT standard and they go to a whole new gender-neutral PT test. Well, in order to get into SF, it wasn't meeting the standard. You had to max the standard, okay? And then it got whittled down from there. So there's been some recent events that have happened. And because you have this conventionalized thinking, and now people are using SF as a stepping stone for their career, right? They become yes men. So when they're told to do something from above and it's stupid, okay, lower the standards, okay? Here recently, they have basically removed the STAR course, which has been a staple from in SF in the qualification course, well, in selection. They've removed it, and they have basically, and I just can't believe there was an article written saying that if you failed a PT test at selection, okay, you could be invited to come back. Yeah, all sorts of things that they have done. They've taken language out of the Q course, and now language used to hammer a bunch of dudes at the end of the Q course. So now
Hey,
language is going to be at group. It doesn't
hey,
make any sense, but it
yeah.
does because they're trying to lower these standards and get more people in because they're saying, well, people aren't signing up and they're not volunteering to go to selection. Well, then they don't volunteer to go to selection, but you don't lower the standards and ruin special operations. And we're coming from our point of view here, but it's happening across the board because there was a directive. The previous administration pushed it through, and for political reasons only, it's going to weaken the military. And we can get in a bigger discussion about that later, but that's what's going on. And that's part of this conventional thinking because you don't have any kick-ass officers standing up saying, fuck no,
Yeah.
fuck no. And
If there's one thing that they can do right now is to pull away from this conventionality.
yeah,
I mean, one thing that you guys need to do right now is pull away from the conventionality. It's not you guys. It never will be you guys. And you conventional officers, and I've said across the table from some of you generals out there, and you know what? We helped each other. But the cool ones that I did set across them didn't put us in a box. They used us appropriately, and we had a good working relationship, which is good. Which also means my command that I was under that time was not involved in any of that because we were doing a good job because that's how we were raised to do it. Okay? Listen, SF, get away from the conventionality. All right? Get away from it. You don't need it. You weren't there in the beginning. Now you've transitioned over to this crap and you're, well, hopefully not, but it's starting to look that way from here, and get away from it. That's the best thing you could do.
well,
And
here's one of the things that I look at, and I think the Navy might have it a little better. The SEALs are one of the only combat arms units in the Navy, so they're kind of looked at as, oh, those guys kick ass, right? In the Army, everybody, the command structure hates special forces. This is something that people don't know. In the Marines, they hate they're trying to kill MARSOC right now. Okay, they hate special operations, and the reason why they hate special operations is because everything in the Army, okay, is geared towards combat arms, right? So you have some ass kickers in the Army in these infantry units, right? And they look at SF and they're like, well, what the hell can those guys do that we can't do? See, now I don't think the Navy has that, okay, because it's a different skill set,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But the Army does. It's
yeah,
competitive. And in a way, that's healthy, right? It's healthy. But the command structure spends all their time trying to destroy SF. I mean, there was another unit. Remember, we were looking at that unit in the Army Times that they created, and they were actually giving them Green Berets, and they were trying to do these foreign internal defense missions and this and that.
oh yeah,
I mean, they are currently they have been forever trying to kill SF. And the whole lowering the standards is another way they're going to try to do this. And they're doing the same thing from what I understand. I don't have the full story, but in the Marines in MARSOC, because what are the Marines? The Marines are combat arms focused. So when you have your special operations unit, they're like, why are those guys getting all that money? Why are those guys getting those missions? We can do those missions. We don't need special, which is nonsense because people who say that don't understand how special operations works. And that's because it's 180 degrees from conventional thinking. And that is what is infecting SF right now. What Chris and I have been trying to get at is the people who are making the decisions are not special operators at heart. They're conventional. They're conventional Army at heart. And they don't understand the job of SF. And that's why they get wrapped around the axle on all of these conventional doctrine. And it's a constant struggle. Now, will SF get through this phase? I hope so, and I think it will. Special operations in general, I hope it will, because they've done a lot of damage in the last 8-9 years to Ranger Battalion, to SF, and I'm sure the SEALs, MARSOC, which is now Raiders, right? And I'm sure it's going on in the Air Force. I don't have a line in the Air Force as much as everything else, but they are really, really, really trying to tear the heart out of special operations across the board. And I think the public needs to wake up to this.
Hey, so that brings me to this, Matt. So we've kind of been taught, we've hounded on air for 30 minutes about the kind of mentality that we have, how we were embedded in all this. So, which brings me to the exciting news is our military readiness course that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say that any young man, young woman out there looking to serve the country as we did, or in whatever capacity it may be, it doesn't have to be special forces. We have a great course structured just for you. We teach the unconventionality. You will need to, don't just remember this, you will need to conventionalize for a little bit, but the unconventionality we teach, we're going to teach you to be thinkers. All right. And you can do that and be conventional at the same time. But we're going to give you the added information, the additional information, more information than you can handle during this course. And it's going to prepare you better for your military career. So,
and I'm going to build on that a little bit. Chris gave a good synopsis of what this is, but what we're doing, and it's something that we wished we would have had. And here's why we came up with this, because often going into the military, you're going in blind, whether you're going Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or Coast Guard, you're going in blind, okay? And you may have an idea in your head on what you want to do, but you don't know how to get there, right? You know that you're going to have to go down and take a test like the ASVAB. You're going to have to take some physical fitness tests, and you're going to have to do some of these things. And now you start to see what your MOS is, your military occupational specialty. That's your job that you're going to have in the military. This should be an important aspect of what you're looking at, okay? Because you go down to the recruiter, and the recruiter's goal is to get you in the job that they think they need to fill right now, not necessarily what you're looking for. So what we're going to do is help guide you through that process, how to get your scores up so you can get the job that you want, determine what job you want, okay, how to deal with the recruiter. Sometimes that means walking away and then coming back later, okay, and how to get your physical fitness up. But in addition to that, we have another issue where there's some problems today, and it's called retention. And people go to basic, and sometimes it's their first time they've ever been to basic, or the first time they've ever been away from home. And they get to basic, and it's just a nightmare. And sometimes they get overloaded. And what we're going to do is give you some hard skills that can help keep you a couple steps ahead of the curve. So not only are you going to get those hard skills, you're also going to get some thinking. And this is what Chris was talking about. When he's talking about unconventional thinking, it's using your head and thinking your way through a problem. Okay, so we're going to start to set that seed to get you doing that. So not only are you going to learn how to do things that are important, that sound basic, like how to pick out your boots, how to break in your boots, how to tie your boots, how to pack a ruck, how to ruck, right? How to tie specific knots, how to do basic land navigation with terrain association using a compass and a protractor and a topo map. Okay, we're going to teach you these things. These sound like they're basic and rudimentary, but when you're having a million things thrown at you in basic and you let yourself get a little bit behind, some people start to shrink, okay? And instead of saying, hey, I know how to do this, and becoming a leader and helping somebody else who might be in trouble, okay, we want to give you those skills to keep you a step ahead so you can help your buddy out that's going to be there with you, because these guys that you go to basic with may be the same guys you serve with. And guess what? It's your responsibility to help get them through so they can be a productive member of the team. The team is only as good as its weakest link. Everybody hears that and they think it's a slogan. It's true. Okay? So you need to build these people up. So an individual that knows some of these skills going in, that knows the mindset and how to keep themselves one step ahead and think their way through problems, that's getting trained to do the job they wanted to get in the military, right? And are prepared for it physically, mentally, you're going to be a star. and it's going to give you a head start in your military career. Our course is a 3-day course, and I promise you will go through this. If you are serious about going in the military, you may go through this and say, hey man, this isn't for me, which is another benefit, knowing that this isn't for you before you get into it. But you're going to come out of that with some skills to make you succeed when you go to basic. And it's just going to give you a huge jump start to your career. So you're on the right foot instead of being on the back foot.
And one of the things that we really kind of pride ourselves in here too is in SF community, we're all teachers. That's exactly what we do. We have this mission called Foreign Internal Defense, where we teach a lot of stuff, and the mission is actually really good. So don't think that me and Matt as Pernigic Life are running a boot camp. That's not what this is. It's to give you the hard skills Matt was talking about to think through the problems. Yeah, there's going to be times in there where we're going to stress you out. And then you're going to get that stress, but at the same time, you're going to realize, moments later, of course, once your brain like eases down and from all the endorphins and all the other stuff that we've induced in you, that you can think your way through this problem. You can bring your breathing down, and we're going to teach you some of those techniques, and we're going to bring that down. You're going to settle down, and your mind's going to start thinking. And once you develop that, it will carry on through you with the rest of your life. You're young. Your brain has not been fully developed yet. Okay, with this type of scenario and type of thinking, and this will help you. It's not a boot camp, but we are going to put some stress in it. Which brings me.
What makes us unique is that Chris and I are there as kind of your instructors, okay? And then we also have Jamie, who's our therapist, that's there giving you the tools to put in your toolbox that we're going to reinforce, okay, with some of the stress that we're putting you under, on how to be successful and keep yourself calm and thinking your way through things that are thrown up in front of you. So that's what really makes us unique in this whole process. Now, we offer other courses. We're highlighting the military readiness course tonight. We offer a survival course. We do military expeditions for military families on transitioning out of that and living day to day with some of the stuff that we've carried and built up along the way. We also do shooting courses where we do pistol, rifle, shotgun. We may be doing some long distance stuff here with some experts soon, and we have an all encompassing thing. But the military readiness program is something that Chris and I, when we sat down, we're like, man, we wish we had this before we went in. And I really, truly think, and here's another thing that we didn't even talk about, Chris. At the end of it, you're going to get a no shit synopsis from us on what we think as far as what your skill set's going to be, where your strengths are, okay, where your potential weaknesses and what you might need to work on, but where your strengths are and what job you may excel at, in our opinion, in the military. So that's another thing that using our experience on that is what we're going to do. It's invaluable if you are looking at making a career or even going into the military for a specific set of time. Okay, this will help you be successful and get you going.
Yeah, and I was going to, you brought up another good point there too, was about the survival course, and some of those same skills are transferred in through the survival course also. One of the things that really is transferable there is the land navigation. That is really, really a cool thing. So I know I was talking to some people here a couple years ago, and they were talking about going hunting in Canada or, whatever, going on these large hunting trips and being out there by themselves. And they kind of wish they had them type skills to navigate and stuff like that. And they had no idea what they were doing. They're kind of relying on their guide. Wow. Yeah, that's craziness.
And we want to rely on electronics today too, where electronics are great and you need to know how to use them to rely, but you can't just rely on electronics. You have to be able to go back to a topo map, a compass, a protractor, okay, or even a topo map and look. See, when you're good at terrain association, you can look at that topo map and then look and say, that's the ridge I'm seeing right on here.
Yep.
That's the valley. You know what I mean? It's a skill that you're going to, when you learn to be, that is the key. When you learn, and this is why that STAR course, because the STAR course is a big navigation course. And this is where you really, if the guys who excel are able to do this, they're able to look at that topo map and they're able to match it up with the terrain features that they're seeing. And instead of shooting an azimuth and maybe getting off a foot every 300 meters, right? 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, whatever. They're going to look at those terrain features and say, I'm going to run from this terrain feature to that terrain feature. And if you're good, that's what you do. Boom, boom, boom. And then as you get close to your point, you use that compass and the protractor to get yourself really pinpointed in when you're close.
Yeah.
So that's the key to doing land navigation. It really is. And it's easier said than done because you've got to learn how to do it. We're going to give you some of those tips and secrets on how to do that stuff, whether it's military readiness, whether it's the survival course. We use land navigation in a lot of things just because it's all encompassing, and metaphorically speaking, it's very good at getting yourself into the present and centered, and it's a huge confidence builder.
Yep, and it induces that stress too, and it teaches you to rely on your decision-making process individually. It also builds that confidence, like you said, in your decisions. And a lot of that land navigation will definitely build that confidence, and it'll transfer again over to that everyday life. So with the folks out there that are interested in survival, yeah, please join up to get under our course, and we're going to teach you some really cool stuff. We got a lot of ground to cover, a lot of nifty things to see, but it'll help you build that confidence. One of the confidence things that really is important here is when your family looks at you for that moment and trust you, and you say, hey, we need to go this way because I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing. And you don't have that, and you don't have a cell phone, you don't have a GPS, you don't have that. You got this map and this compass, and you know where you're going. You're gonna exude that confidence, and I think you're gonna build the confidence with your family too. And for the family,
it's going to work its way into other things. It works its way into a lot of other things. So we're going to give you a bunch of skills, but the foundation is the land navigation that we teach, and that's what you build off of for everything else. You're going to learn medical stuff. You're going to learn medical trauma, and how you stop bleeding, and how you do all of these things that you're going to need to know how to do in a survival situation. But the linchpin of what our course is begins with land navigation. All right. Yep. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Chris?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to wrap up. I think there was a lot of good questions out there tonight, and I just want to say thanks to Wade. Also, let me see here, Randall, Wade, somebody named Jack Torse on TV. Yeah, it's really kind of spelled weird, but hey, thanks for logging in. Yeah. Dakota, thanks for logging in, watching us on here. Thanks for all the support. We look forward to seeing you guys again and in the future. We had some technical difficulties on Sunday. That's why we're here on Tuesday. But usually we're here on Sunday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern. And
check our Facebook page out. We're going to start putting updates on there, and maybe make some suggestions too on what you'd like us to talk about. We try to mix in some stuff that interests us, obviously guns, survival equipment, outdoors gear, and some stories. We want to include stories if you want to hear them. And some current events we're going to throw in there too. I know we beat the current event stuff to death, and we're kind of coronavirus out. I think we've said everything that really needs to be said about it. But we can talk about it some more if that's what you would like to do. But give us some suggestions. And in the meantime, keep on checking in and live in freedom every day. Check out our website, www.prenergiclife.com, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you again for stopping by.
Later.